Welcome to Forever Unbreakable, everybody. Tonight I am joined by Abby and Elisa, and actually it's this afternoon. It's not even tonight. So what we're going to tell you guys about today, so something super cool. Abby is the youngest person that I'm having on the podcast to date. So Abby's 11 years old, which is awesome. What she's been through is something that more than the majority of the world hasn't been through anything like that, I would say.
Right.
And thankfully they haven't. So, Abby, why don't you tell us what you went through at the age of 4 years old?
I had open heart surgery, so I had a hole in my heart and it didn't go away. So when I was 4, I had open heart surgery, and ever since then, I've been happy and healthy, and I can do everything that I want. I can do all the sports I want except 2 things, which is wrestling and tackle football, which I won't do.
So do you remember the day that that you were going in, or when you found out that you needed to have surgery? What was it like? Like, how scared were you? Can you remember back to that time?
I remember that my mom told me this before, that she got a call and she was really scared, but then she realized that it was going to be okay. But I remember when I woke up and that I felt really weird, and that I said to my mom that I think she has 4 eyes.
That was when they gave you the medicine to help put you to sleep.
Yeah. So that was before she went.
It was, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And
So
you
we
remember
we didn't really tell her. I mean, because was like barely 4 years old when she had it, so we really didn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't think she even realized she had a hole in her heart. So we just said we had to go to the hospital. She had to get something fixed. So, I mean, there was no fear going into it because she didn't really know a whole lot about it. I think the fear was all ours.
Yeah. So talk about the fear that you had then as a mother. Is Abby your only child?
No, I've got a 15-year-old.
Okay.
As well.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've already had one child that was healthy and
Yes.
and had no worries. So now
Right.
So now you're about to send your baby into heart surgery. Like,
Right.
talk about what that's like.
So she, we knew from the time that she was about 8 weeks old that something wasn't right with her heart. So they were just watching it. Every year we'd go back. Every year they'd check it, and it wasn't closing. And her doctor had said if by the time she got to be 3, if it didn't close on its own, that it wasn't going to. So they had done all the testing when she was 3. Sent it to Children's Hospital. The surgeon looked at it, and he thought that they could do a non-invasive procedure where they basically went up through her leg and almost like put a parachute over it.
Really?
And it just attaches to the wall of the heart and covers it. But they said they wanted her to get a little bit bigger. So they said, let's wait another year. So we waited till she was 4, went back into her doctor here. Thankfully, there's an awesome pediatric cardiologist right here in town. And he redid the tests, said, oh, it looks the same. The one side of her heart was starting to get a little bit bigger just because it was having to work a little harder.
Yeah.
But he said it looked the same. So he said, I'm sure they'll be able to do that procedure. So he sent it down to Children's. And a couple days later, the phone rings, and it was him. And I knew when he called himself that something wasn't right. So
Yeah.
he said, different surgeon, that there wasn't enough around the wall of her heart to attach it to, so they were going to have to do the open heart surgery. And I'm usually one that has 8 million questions, and I just remember saying to him, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he said, Children's will be calling you in a couple of days, within a day or so, and they'll
Yeah.
explain everything. And
So it was so you had to go to the Children's Hospital to actually get it done.
yes,
They couldn't do it locally.
they
here.
don't do it locally. They don't
Okay.
do anything pediatric-wise locally. They've got a cardiologist here that's pediatric, but they don't do the surgeries.
Okay.
So he does everything through Milwaukee. So I think it was less than 24 hours. So after I talked to him, I remember my husband traveling. I called him in hysterics. But it's funny because usually, I get hysterical about things. But there's something when it's your kid that, I lost it for about 2 hours. And then I'm like, okay, I need to just deal with this. So I pulled it together and waited for Children's to call me. And they did by the next day. They talked through the whole surgery, and I'm such a worrier.
Yeah.
But by the time I was done talking to them, I'm like, all right, it's going to be okay.
Which is crazy because
They are amazing. I mean, just they walked through every part of the procedure. And I hung up with them, and I'm like, she's going to be fine. She'll be fine.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy to go from. It's got to be just an emotional roller coaster.
It was.
From one side, like my daughter is going to have open heart surgery. My
Yes.
4-year-old child is going to have open heart surgery.
Right.
To this is fine.
Right.
She's going to
right.
be okay.
And I even look back and I'm like, how was I so calm? Because I usually get so worked up about stuff. But yeah, I knew it was going to be okay. And then we went down there like a week later. And like the surgeon met with us one-on-one. Yeah. And I mean, that's just how that hospital is. They're just like, it's the most amazing place you can ever possibly be. And he met with us one-on-one, and I remember going with like a legal pad of paper with 3 pages of questions.
Yeah.
And none of them at that point were about the surgery, because I knew that part was going to be okay. It was, can she wear her own PJs? Can she bring her blanket? Can she bring her stuffed animal? Like, is she going to be in pain? What do we do when we get home?
Yeah.
And I never had to ask him one question. He answered absolutely everything without me ever asking. Like, that's how in tune they are with
So how
parents.
long? So how long are you at the Children's Hospital for?
Do you remember?
3 days or 2 days?
Yep, she had the surgery on Friday, and we went home on Monday.
That's crazy.
It is.
Just quick weekend trip.
Yes.
Open heart surgery.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And do you remember when they took you from the intensive care unit up to the other room?
They said that they asked me if I wanted to go on a little wagon.
Yeah.
So it was super cool.
Yeah, so they don't take them in beds. They
take 'em in
They take
wagons.
them in a wagon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's it like being at, for both of you guys, especially if you can remember being at St. Jude, or because it's St. Jude's Children's Hospital, isn't it? Or
No,
it's a
Children's Hospital, Wisconsin.
Okay, Children's
Milwaukee.
Hospital, Wisconsin. Okay. So when you're there, it's all kids going through everything from heart surgeries like you went through to cancer to all sorts of stuff. Like what is it like walking by some of those waiting rooms and walking through there versus, a normal hospital or normal life?
They really, like, the cardiac floor was separate. And honestly, we didn't leave a whole lot.
Okay.
That's the other nice thing about that place, is they really catered to the family. So in the back of the room, there was a pull-out bed. So we never literally had to leave her room.
Yeah.
But I do remember, like, walking through the ICU. Like, she was the oldest child in the cardiac intensive care unit.
Which is crazy.
It was all these little tiny babies. And I also remember, and some of the nurses telling me, like, some of them had been there for so long that, like, their parents would come on the weekends and visit, but they didn't have anybody because they'd been there so long and their parents had to go back to work, or they had other kids that they had to care for. So honestly, I felt very lucky that, yes, it was open heart surgery, but really we were like in and we were out.
Yeah.
And some of these other little tiny babies had been there for months.
Yeah, and the parents just, it's got to eat
Right.
a person alive.
Yes, exactly.
Because you look at those moments where you just don't know. That
Right.
24 hours where you didn't know. Because, like, how was it in the 3 years leading up to it? Was it like, oh, you don't have to worry about it. She can carry on normal. Like, yeah, she's got a hole in her heart, but it's not a big deal.
Right.
And that's how they treated it?
It was. They just said, like, the signs that they told us to watch for was, like, if she was running and she was really short of breath or she wasn't gaining weight. But honestly, it was almost like out of sight, out of mind. Because I also had myself convinced that it was going to close on its own.
Yeah.
Because one of the other things she had was a heart murmur, which I had, and
Okay.
it went away. My son had it at the time. His has since gone away. So I just figured, it's no big deal.
And the heart murmur has gone away.
They can pick it up every once in a while. And even on myself, once in a while, they can pick it up. But for the most part, yes. Yeah, the most part, it's gone. So no, I really didn't think about it a whole lot with her.
That's crazy.
Right.
Like, I would picture it like being in your head every day. Like,
Right.
okay, this is potentially life threatening, but it's not obviously life threatening to the point that you've got to monitor it and check it daily or weekly.
Right. But I also went into it thinking that they were going to be able to put this little patch on it. I'd never thought that the end result could be open heart surgery.
Yeah.
I always thought it was going to be like this outpatient procedure and it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. And now there's probably more of it being an outpatient procedure because this is 7 years ago. I mean, the
Yes.
technology advances.
Yeah.
They just keep getting better
Right.
and better and
right.
better and better.
Yeah.
You know, so it's crazy when you like hear about. For me, like I hear a lot about the amputee stuff from veterans and the different things that they're able to solve.
Right.
You know, from veteran issues and how quickly they rehab guys, and some of them come back and perform better than before.
Right.
You know, with all the
Yeah.
same mobility and agility.
Right.
You know, but they still obviously have some pain stuff. But it's remarkable what the medical community has done and can do and keeps continuing to
Right.
get better with, because to be able to put a mother's mind at ease when their 4-year-old daughter is going into open heart
Right.
surgery, I still can't, like, I'm sitting
Right.
here and I can't wrap my head around
Right.
that because I'm thinking to myself, I'd be so wound up.
Right.
I'd be like, tell
Oh,
me
yeah.
more.
Well, the other thing too that they do that's kind of neat is they, it's hard to go back to any type of medical care after that, after you've spent some time at Children's Hospital, because they also assign one nurse to every 2 families. So when she, like, literally, they had given her, it was Percocet is what she had to take.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny because she took it and she says that it tasted like chocolate. And she will not eat chocolate till this day because that's what it reminds her of. And she said it was
Really?
horrible. But I remember, like, they gave her the Percocet and I was holding her in my arms. And all of a sudden she kind of lays back and she's looking at me and she says, "Why you got 3 eyes?" And then boom, she was out. So I literally was able to hold her up until the second that they took her into surgery. So they took her out of my arms and then of course I lost it. But
Yeah. Because how long was the surgery?
5 hours.
Wow.
But they don't leave you sit there. They got her back into the OR and they put her to sleep. The nurse would come out and tell us that. They had to put her on heart and lung bypass, which that terrified me. But once she was on it, she'd come out and tell us. So every step of the way, you knew exactly.
So you're getting updates like every.
Like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You knew, like you were there, exactly what was going on.
That's crazy.
And then afterwards, the surgeon came out and talked to us, and then he took us back in their little secret hallways, and we were able to see her for 2 seconds before they took her up to her room.
Yeah, it's like getting the play-by-play.
Absolutely.
That's crazy,
Yeah,
because
so
you
there's
go to a
no
normal-
wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, in a normal hospital, under surgery, you have no idea. Like,
Exactly.
My
Yeah.
dad had to get a valve put in his heart a couple of years ago. Or just replaced a valve or whatever. And which is like, yeah, it's a routine surgery, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And so he was sitting in the waiting room for, the couple of hours he's under the knife. And it's like, wonder when he's going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice that they go
because
the
it's
extra
routine
step.
for them,
Yeah.
but it's not for you.
No, not at all. And it better never be routine.
Right.
You know?
But I do remember her surgeon saying, if you're going to have a heart defect, this is the one to have. And I'm thinking, what? She has to have open heart surgery. And he's like, I can do this in my sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how. I mean, he doesn't do multiple a day, but I mean, it's pretty routine nowadays, I think. But I mean, that just, like you said, that just goes to show you how much medicine has advanced.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a friend that she was doing yoga one day, and she said she could just like feel something was just like not right. She had 13 holes in her heart.
That's insane.
She was like in her early 30s, and
That's
it never
crazy.
had been detected. And how her doctor even said how she's alive is beyond him.
And
but I mean,
so
that's
now she's
how
alive and
yeah,
fine too.
she had to have an open heart surgery. But with an adult, it's just so much more. Kids just don't have the tissue and the
structure built
right.
in.
They heal so much quicker.
Yeah, and it's when you look at it, like when I look at an adult going into surgery, it's not nearly as fearful as a child. When you hear about a child going
Right.
into these surgeries, it's like it's some scary stuff because there's that whole development stage going on,
Right.
And all that other stuff, and it's just like, I don't know about all of this.
Right.
As an adult, it's like, oh man, you're just having a heart surgery, no big deal.
Right, right.
Not to that extent, but
But I also think too that with, like when I was picturing open heart surgery, all that I knew was adults that had had it, and
Yeah.
the pain, and that coughing, having to cough into the pillow, and
Yep.
that like horrible, horrible pain.
Yeah.
And kids don't have that because they
Really?
don't have all that, like the tissue and everything in their that an adult has. So honestly, I don't think she ever once said ouch.
Wow.
Like she literally, when we went home, hopped out of the car and wanted to go ride her bike. Like
that's crazy.
3 days after open heart surgery.
So how long did they make? How long did they make you not be active?
Like 2 weeks,
And
that was hard.
And then you could get back to normal life activity, or like
Not
was it a
quite
slow
normal.
progression?
Like my biggest fear was like I wanted to hang a sign on her because they said the one thing we could not do is like pick her up under the arms because everything's sewn together in there, and if you pick up under the arms, it can pull that.
So she shouldn't even be raising her arms.
Well, she could raise her arms, but you couldn't lift her and
Okay.
put that pressure on it. So I was so afraid somebody would go to try to pick her up. So even, she was in daycare at the time, but I kept her out for an extra month because I'm like, what if somebody accidentally picks her up? But that was it. She, like I said, she never complained of pain.
Which
once.
is crazy.
I know.
You would expect okay, we're going to be back to no sleeping at night because she's going to be in pain all night. And I'm going to have to be up.
Yes. And I think that was my biggest fear. Like I knew that they would take care of her at the hospital. It was, how am I going to take care of her when she gets home was probably my bigger fear. Like I remember leaving the hospital being scared to death that here we're like 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
And like, what if something went wrong? And how am I going to manage? What if for some reason, like the medicine is still keeping her pain free, and all of a sudden she's going to wake up tomorrow and she's going to be in this terrible pain, and how do I control that? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy it's just crazy to think that there wasn't pain or not high levels of pain.
Right.
Because I picture excruciating pain. Like, I mean, they cut your chest open.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Like, I'm in pain. There's no question. Like, if somebody even gives me a sternum rub,
right,
I hurt.
Yeah.
I'm like, ouch. Like, no. And to do that, wow.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
You don't remember ever feeling any pain, do you?
The only thing I remember is when I was awake before they gave me the medicine was when they gave me a shot, like by my vein.
Yeah.
And that hurt though.
Yes.
That's the only
She
thing.
almost passed out because they were trying
getting the IV or something.
Yeah. That's I think the only thing that hurt her.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. I'm like trying to wrap my head around it just not hurting.
Right.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool that in children, that the way the human body's set up, they didn't have to suffer from that pain.
Right.
Like,
but how much of like our pain too is like in our head?
True.
That like when you're a kid and you have no preconceived
Yeah.
notion and you go into it and she's just thinking, oh, we just have to go to the hospital for something little.
Yeah.
Most of like my pain was probably emotional and in my head because I was afraid of what could happen and what the consequences could be, where she didn't know any better. And same thing with their brother. He's 4 years older than her. And I was terrified to tell him because I was so worried that he was going to be so upset.
Yeah.
And we told him like 2 days before. He didn't know what open heart surgery was. So he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you when you get home.
Which is just crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. That's nuts.
It is. It is.
Super neat, but just crazy. So now post surgery, you entering school and stuff like that, and you start to get into sports and dancing, and competing in pageants. Like, how much worry was there? Were you worried at all as you started getting this stuff, knowing that hey, I had a heart issue and now I'm gonna go and exercise? At a higher level.
I wasn't worried because I knew that they took good care of me and that I knew that I was going to be safe.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Like the fact that you, because you probably started playing sports at 5.
No, I
6?
feel like probably right after. Actually, I think that fall
soccer.
she had her surgery in June, and I think she played like t-ball that fall.
So like
T-ball.
2 months later, 3 months later.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like even if that was me, like I'd be a little worried.
Right.
About
Exactly.
myself, like okay.
Right.
My heart's
But they
not.
just
not like
kept
everybody
saying.
else's.
They just kept saying she's fine. There's no limitations. Just no tackle football. We're like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Because the heart is obviously a little different having now that it's, patched up, if you will.
Right.
Or whatever the, more proper term is for that, I guess.
Right.
But like, So I would have assumed that there was some concern. So that's cool. That's awesome that you're able to, do that stuff without having to be super worried about, am I overexerting myself? Am I
Right.
applying too much energy and effort to this? Because you, in a sense, you almost don't know.
Right.
so
I mean,
it's super
she
cool.
still goes. She goes back to the cardiologist every year here.
Okay.
Just for a checkup, and he just makes sure that everything. I mean, so she will always have to go to the cardiologist to make sure that everything is good. But, knock on wood, so far, no issues whatsoever. I mean, honestly, like the only. Even now, it is kind of out of sight, out of mind. You do kind of forget about it until you see just that really faint scar that she has, which is very faint.
Yeah.
But when I see that, it's like just this reminder of how grateful and thankful I am for children's and, just to have her here and for the fact that they caught it and where they were able to fix it. And she wasn't one of those kids who was, out dancing and collapses
Yeah. No.
because there was an undetected heart defect.
Yeah, that's so, it's awesome that you can just carry on
Right.
life, as normal, and that the scar is minimal.
Right.
My assumption was it was still a good sized scar, so that's even cooler that you don't have to worry about that, as you get older and progress and things like that. That's awesome. So,
But I will say, a couple of years ago, her scar bothered her a lot. Like she'd always be pulling up her shirt. Like she didn't want anybody to see it.
yeah,
Because she was, I think, a little embarrassed of it. And now, I mean, tell them, I guess, what you think about your scar.
I think that it's a reminder of that I'm brave and that if something's different about you or there's something that happened to you, it shouldn't define who you are and it shouldn't stop you.
yeah, and that's huge right there. Like one thing that I got from Sharon was the message, like the message that you have, which is that don't let it define you. Don't ask why it happened to you, but how you can use it to help others. So I think that's super huge and super important that people who are going through this, and that's the main reason why the podcast exists, is so people out there that are now going through this struggle, that you went through at 4 years old and that you had to experience with your daughter, know like, hey, there's the resources out here are going to take care of your child.
Right.
And yeah, you might have a scar, but this is what you can do with that scar. You can look down on it and have it make you a better person, a stronger person, or you can let it eat you up, like what had happened a few years ago, as you were saying, where you looked down at it and didn't have this pride with it of like, hey, because of this, I'm a stronger person, I'm a braver person, likely than any of your peers.
Right.
So it's remarkable. I love seeing that. I love seeing people who have found their strength and that ability to look at something that could be a huge negative and turn it into an awesome positive to help both yourself and the people around you. So it's awesome that at 11 years old, like to have that part figured out already, the places you can go in the future because of that, and the things that you can help others with is awesome. And it's super awesome that like you have that philosophy or that mission in life of, hey, this happened to me and now I'm going to go and this is my life mission. I'm going to go and provide the support and assistance for others.
Right.
Because of my experience, which is why you're here today and why you were selected to go talk, a couple months ago? Talk about that experience. What was that like?
So I was the spokesperson for the American Heart Association Heart Ball, the Heart and Stroke Ball, and it was really fun. And I got to dance with my dance trio, which I do at dance, and it was a really fun time. We met some new people, and yeah.
So, and they raised a ton of money. They raised $500,000
That night alone.
in one night.
Right,
Like that is
right.
insane.
Yeah.
Like how good does it make you feel to be a part of an event like that, where they're raising $500,000 to help the research and get the surgeries done for those who need it? Like, how does that make you feel, knowing that kids who are coming into that position have that level of support that you had?
I feel really good about that because it can help kids or adults that have something that like something that's wrong with them, like with their heart, and it could help them be healthier.
Yeah, it gives us a second chance at life.
The other
You know?
really cool thing that came out of it was they came up to our house. The event was in Milwaukee, but they had a film crew that came up to our house. I think it was like in December, and they were there for like 7 hours, and they interviewed our whole family, and we kind of just talked about her surgery, and they aired it that night, but they had also put it on like their Facebook pages. And actually, 2 different moms reached out to me who had kids that had the exact same issue, and they were about to face the same thing that we had gone through.
That's crazy. How did that make you feel as a mother, having these other moms reach out to you?
That's to me what like made it all worth it. Like that was like my proudest moment, was that's when I was like, okay, we can help other people, because that was the one thing I remember. I would talk to people, but nobody had been through what she was going to have to go through. And it's like, I just wanted another mom to talk to, because I had the mom questions, and I didn't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah.
So like, that was my one thing and I've told her cardiologist, if you ever have another patient and they have that, please give them my telephone number, because I'd be happy to talk to them. So I felt so good when those moms reached out to me, and I said, call anytime if you have questions, and they just said, we're so glad to see how well she's doing.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
It's crazy. So those moms, have you heard how their son or daughter's
I think
went?
both of them were, they were going to be like a year away. So I just said, keep in touch if you have any questions.
Okay, nice.
We're always here to talk or, answer any questions. And she met another nice girl. Her parents kind of chaired the event and had a little bit of a similar story. So it's kind of neat, too, to be able to meet people, that they're about the same age, had gone through a lot of the same things. So that was kind of neat to meet.
Yeah, because
somebody like her.
It's got to be hard in a sense, too, when you're, talking to your peers, people your age that haven't experienced that.
Right.
Like what that's like, and what it's like to go through, and what it's like to come through the recovery side, and how people, look at you after and your accomplishments and things. A lot of people can't relate to it.
Right.
Like
No, 11-year-olds don't know what open heart surgery is.
They don't have a clue.
No.
Unless you've experienced it firsthand.
Right. Right.
So,
and it's kind of nice for her now, too, to be able to be like that voice.
Yeah.
They just did Hoops for Heart at her school, and for the American Heart Association, and her gym teacher, knows her whole story because he's known her since kindergarten, and asked her if she kind of wanted to be their spokesperson for the school. So they featured her story, and they showed the video, which she was a little bit embarrassed that everybody saw the video in her school. But I said, you got to remember why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it allowed those kids to put a face with the American Heart Association and a face with like what they stand for and what they do, and tell them what the results were.
So what the money that we raised was $15,000, which was the highest in the district. So our DPR
that's
district.
huge. That's a ton of money to raise.
The most they'd ever raised was $9,000, and it went to $15,000. And I
so
really
almost
have
double,
to,
almost doubled.
Right.
It. Yeah.
And I have to believe it's because those kids could now put a face with.
Yeah, unless you can relate, it's really hard.
Yeah, if it doesn't affect you, it's kind of
like
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, like when you go to donate to an organization at the end of the year, or at any time during the year, you're always going to donate to the one that actually has some meaning to you, or you're not going to donate to any if none of them have ever affected you in a manner that you're like, okay, yep, I need to contribute to this.
Right.
So I guarantee that's why the numbers are up, but the fact that it almost doubled is remarkable. Like that's crazy. Like that's got to make you feel so good. Being essentially the reason for that huge spike is just because you were able to tell your story. And a lot of people are afraid to tell their story.
Right.
Just like what your mom was saying, there's a lot of fear initially when it comes to telling that story and getting it out there. A guy that I recorded not that long ago suffered from alcoholism and didn't want to tell his story forever.
Sure.
And now he's sharing it. And other guys, a friend of mine was a drug dealer as a kid and grew up selling drugs and doing drugs, and now changed his whole life, and he's a super successful business owner. But a lot of people don't want to share their story. And so I'm glad you're sharing your story, because it's super important, because there's a lot of kids going through this right now that could sit and watch this and be like, okay, she went through it. She's healthy. She's smiling, laughing, and she's playing sports and dance. And now you're in pageants as well. Mm-hmm. And so what's that like? Because that takes a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. So, and it's primarily based around, confidence in female individuals as they grow and develop. So I got the opportunity last year, a year before, to be a judge at one of those, and it was a cool learning experience. Yeah, so I got to put people like yourself on the spot.
Wow.
With the questions and things like that, and I had a ton of fun. But you can see the difference in confidence level. And so, how's that helping you in life with your confidence? And then how did the heart surgery affect that as well? Because your platform is obviously around the heart surgery.
So pageants helped me become more confident, because before, when I was always standing behind my mom's leg and I was always super shy. And the heart surgery that comes in it is that it can share a purpose, and that it can have a purpose of that if you have something different about you, it shouldn't define who you are.
Yeah, no, and that's the key thing, is like, just because something's a little different about you, don't let it define you as an individual. Because a lot of times we don't get to pick the way that we look. We don't get to pick some of the different aspects in our life. But you get to pick who you are as a person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a good person, a bad person, outgoing person, or a shy person. Like, you get to pick that. At any time that you look in the mirror and you don't like it, you get to change it.
Right.
It's the one thing you can change. Without, it costs you no money, to costs you no extra time really to change who you are, but you can do that. And that's basically what you represent right there. And that's huge, is that you can always be better, always evolve. And it's awesome. So how do you like the pageants?
I love them because you get to make new friends, and I can share my story, and that if someone had open heart surgery, they're going to be okay. If I was okay, they can be okay too.
Yeah. So do you get nervous going on into the pageants?
Sometimes, yes, like at national pageants, but I usually don't get very, very nervous, because I know that even if you do mess up, you're still gaining more confidence.
No, that's a great way to look at it, because you're gonna make mistakes. There's no way to run a perfect event every single time that you step up. Little things happen. You don't answer a question the way you wanted to. You step incorrectly, or you do this wrong or that wrong, or this happened today or that happened today. But the main thing too, and the one thing that I learned from my experience judging those, is even if you make a mistake, you've got tons of time to recover from that mistake.
Right.
To still come out winning at the end.
Right.
And that's what I enjoyed about it, was the pace of it, how fast the day progresses. So there's a lot going on, and it's fast paced, and you're on the spot and you're being challenged. And I think it's super cool when an individual is challenged, and you get to see who they really are as a person when you challenge them on things that they've never thought about or potentially experienced. So to me, it's super cool. I have a ton of respect for what's going on in the organization, especially now the way that they're moving it forward in a better direction than it had been.
And I think that's your favorite part too, isn't it? The interview,
Yeah.
she
really
that's awesome. Is her.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah, she's done in one system. She's done it where she sits at a table and gets interviewed one-on-one by 6 judges.
Okay.
And then one that she just did, it was a panel style. So she had to stand in front of 6 judges, and they interviewed her. And she just loves it. But she's got such a great story to tell. It's not, when you're 11, not that you haven't accomplished things, but a lot of 11-year-olds don't really have a whole lot to say. And she's just got such a good story. And I love hearing the comments from the judges, because they really enjoy hearing what she's gone through and how she's overcome it. And it's been, I'm not going to say, I honestly feel like with her being the spokesperson for the Heart Ball, if it hadn't been for her having won that pageant, I don't know that she would have been. That was our avenue for that to happen. So
Yeah.
it's like the pageants, I mean, that's literally her stage to be able to tell her story.
Yeah, it's a platform.
And
it
it's
provides
right.
a platform
It's opened a
to
lot
get it
of
out there.
doors for her to be able to, what I feel is help other people.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's opening doors. You're opening doors for yourself, and you're opening doors for other people as well.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing that we can do while we're, in my eyes, that we
Right.
can do while we're here on this planet.
So honest, like if
is do
I
that.
have to say to myself, like way back when we were faced with her having the surgery, and I would say, why does it have to be Abby?
Yeah.
And when she started doing the pageants, I was like, this is why.
Yeah.
This is why that happened. So
good.
that she could be here today and she could be sharing her story.
Yeah, and it's huge. Like the trickle down effect and impact
Right.
that has once you start to share that story and you start to get it out there and you make it your mission or your purpose. The trickle down effect is now you're going to inspire somebody else and somebody
Right.
else and somebody else. And then you start to create this positive movement all going in the right direction. And that's already what's happening. And to be having that happen at 11 years old is insane. Like I didn't start down that process or start learning about that process even until I was like 27, 28. Before I had the life experiences in my life to be able to say, okay, I want to help others. I need to develop and build a platform in which I can do so. And so for me, I started a veterans organization with one of my buddies, Nick Grease, and we grew that, and now that's a super successful organization doing, helping thousands of veterans a year. And it's an absolute blast. But I needed those life experiences,
Right.
and it took me till 27-ish years old
Right.
to get to that point. So at 11 years old, you're already there. So just imagine, right? So that's at 11. Now I'm 34. Imagine at 34 where you'll be.
She'll be president.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And that's what I mean. Like if you continue down that path,
Right.
it's only going to grow. More doors are going to open for you. You're going to open more doors for other people, and it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. So keep after it. It's awesome. Like it's super exciting to see and get to like meet you and talk to you right now. Because at 11 years old, I know a couple of 11-year-olds, and they're not out there, sharing a story like that. They're not out there picking people up and explaining to them, hey, I went through this and look at me now. You can do the same thing. Let me show you the way, basically.
Right.
So that is super awesome. You got to keep this up now. There's some pressure on too, because when you start to do this, there's the expectation that you're going to continue to do it, and keep going and keep going. So usually I ask the unbreakable question first, but because we're headed that direction, like what's next? Because you've got to keep pushing the envelope of helping others and growing as an individual. So what's next for Abby?
I still want to help with the American Heart Association and children's hospitals and make sure that that people can be okay, and that if I was okay, they can be okay, and that I can try to help them survive, and so they can be happy and healthy.
No, that's awesome.
What are you doing in a week?
I'm going to the one pageant I do is USA National Miss, and I'm going to nationals there. So I'm going to try to make sure people are kind and that they can be anything they want to be if they just keep trying.
So where is this at?
In Florida.
In Florida.
Orlando, yep.
Nice. That's
So
awesome.
she's competing for the USA National Miss
Preteen.
Preteen on a national level.
That's
So
crazy.
She's the Wisconsin preteen.
And I kind of know the process, but people listening don't know how hard it is to get to that level. So, because you start in a region or city. So first you got to win at the local level, right? So, and was it De Pere then? Or is it like
For the younger girls, you don't really have to compete to win that. You just enter it at a local level. So the first competition is state.
Okay, so the first real one is state. So then this is the follow on to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right
So
now.
she won state.
Okay.
And now she goes to national. So she'll be competing against 42 other girls for the preteen title.
That's awesome. How excited are you?
Really excited.
Are you nervous?
Not really, because it's going to be really fun, and I can't wait to meet other girls.
That's awesome. That's the best way. That's the best way to go in, because like when I judged, it was I think there was the two different age groups. There was teen, and then so there had to be preteen.
Okay.
I think, and it was like I would have been super intimidated because we did the panel style when they came in for their questions, and some of them you could just tell like this was their first experience with that, and they were forgetting to have fun and enjoy it.
Right.
And they were too nervous. So keep that attitude, because that attitude will provide success. Like, have fun, enjoy the experience. It's why we, practice and train, because you have to practice that as well. It's not something that you just get up and go do. So you practice it, obviously, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Lots of practice.
Yeah. So when you practice, do you just ask her the questions, or how do you guys do that?
Yeah, we do walks too, which we coordinate our own walks, and then
Okay.
we do interview. We go over interview.
Nice.
So we'll just be driving around in the car sometimes, and I'll just ask her a question.
Random questions. 'Cause
Right.
you have to stay up on current events and everything too. Like,
Not really at her age. Usually
Okay.
you fill out kind of a resume and you put on, things that you're involved in and organizations that you support, and they'll typically ask about those things.
Okay.
But it's more on your confidence, and that if they ask you a question, you don't give a one-word answer, that you can actually articulate what you're trying to say.
which is huge and difficult
is.
for a lot of people at that age.
Absolutely.
A lot of kids at that age.
Absolutely.
Especially the confidence thing. Like, confidence is something that is kind of hard to come by.
It is.
Right. And to be able to walk in there and be confident and know what you're talking about and know your story and know what you want to do with your story. And you've already figured that out. Like, you already know what you want to do with your story, and it's not just that you know what you want to do, it's what you're doing with your story. Like, you're already doing it, which is awesome. And so I hope you know that. And I hope you know the effects it's having and is going to continue to have, because it's awesome. Like, it's super cool. And you've got to be so proud as a
I'm
as
very
a parent.
proud of her. Very
So,
proud.
to go from a moment where you didn't know what the surgery was going to be like to today
Yeah.
is crazy.
Right. Absolutely.
Super awesome. So now let's talk about the unbreakable part. So define what makes you unbreakable, or what makes individuals unbreakable, or what you think when you hear the word unbreakable.
That if you had something, and that, because I had open heart surgery, and it didn't stop me from being myself or stop me from doing any other sports or any other thing except tackle football and wrestling, but it just says that you shouldn't stop being yourself, or that if something happened, it shouldn't define who you are and it shouldn't stop you.
Yeah, and like you said before, don't let it stop you. Don't let it define who you are. Go be who you want to be. And you've done that, like, without any fear. Like, you're just taking fear and pushing it off to the side. Like, I don't need you in my life. Like, we're gonna go crush, and I'm gonna go be me, and I'm gonna go do big things. I think that's super awesome. I think you have a great story, and it's absolutely going in the right direction.
Thank you.
So you just keep it up. Like, because it's tough when you're doing all this practice stuff and all that. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into helping others and growing it and all of that, and many time commitments and things like that. So at times it gets tough. Like, at times it'll make you want to break, and quit. And you just got to stay after it, and I love it.
Just remind yourself why you're doing it and just keep on doing it.
Exactly. And then you get those payoff days when you go and compete, or you go in and are the spokesperson for one of these events. And that's your payoff day, where now you're affecting tons of people. Like today, when we launch this episode, that's going to go out and have great deals of effect on tons of people. And that's what you're doing it for. And as long as you keep that as the focus, which you've already figured out at 11, it's crazy to me. You're going to be a rock star. I have no doubt. President it is. I'll vote for you. I'll vote for you. So that do you guys have anything else you want to add to the podcast?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, this is a super fun episode.
Yeah.
I had an absolute blast.
Us too.
It's such a cool story of the heart surgery and all the details with it. But it's an even cooler story of now.
Right.
And moving forward from today, and tomorrow and so on and so forth is the even cooler story than the fact that you survived a heart surgery, which one would think surviving a heart story would be the coolest part of the story, but
Right.
it's not. So awesome. Well, all of you guys out there, thanks for tuning in, and remember to stay unbreakable. Thanks. We're out.